Hello traders, Rich here and welcome back to a new episode on how to analyze any chart from scratch without using any indicators. For today, episode number 5, we'll be going over US500 as an index. Previously, if you remember, for the previous 4 episodes, we went over a forex pair, a crypto coin, a stock, and gold as a commodity. So sit back, relax, and enjoy it. As usual, we start from the higher time frames, weekly, monthly, to get an idea about the overall direction, get our key rejection levels, and then daily H4 for the structure, and then of course, lower time frames for entries. Half of the work is done here on the higher time frames because once you know where you are in the market, you know what to look for on lower time frames. Starting from the monthly time frame, you can clearly see that obviously US 500 trend is always bullish. And you can clearly see that we've got our first impulse, a correction, impulse, correction. And the reason why I'm showing you this is to show you that the correction movement is usually retesting the previous major high. This is a correction movement, tested the previous major high. And most probably, once the correction movement starts, we'll be expecting a movement towards the previous major high. This is a very, very important to always study previous price action to get an idea about how this a particular chart is behaving. If you want to win wars, study previous wars. So you can see that, you can highlight it. And anyway, let's keep it clean, but I just wanted to give you an idea. And this previous major high is lining up with the 5K resistance zone and around number. Of course, previously a resistance, and now it's acting as a support zone. This is a very important click or hint for us to consider once the correction movement starts. But of course, currently we're in this big impulse movement and we remain bullish unless the bears take over from a short-term perspective, which we'll be going to check in a bit. If you zoom into weekly time frame, you can clearly see that we have been overall bullish and you are able to draw this channel, which is engulfing this overall bullish movement. And this is very important because you can get an idea about where the impulse movement might end, which would be around this zone, around 6K around number. Let me make my camera a little bit smaller for me to see the numbers. Perfect. So 6K would be a very, very strong area, also around number, lining up with the upper bound of this channel. Next, if you zoom a little bit in, or even to a lower time frame, like daily time frame, for example, you can clearly see that you are also bullish here, and you can draw a channel that engulfing this current overall smaller impulse movement. So let me highlight this one, make it appear on lower time frames. Perfect. This is daily. You zoom a little bit out. Let me wait for my connection. Perfect. We got our big impulse from weekly, big correction from weekly, and big impulse also. This impulse is also bullish, so we can also engulf it like this. That's it. Let's go for a different color to know that it's from daily time frame. Here we go. And you can also make a big projection for it. So if you push higher, this zone here around 6K upper bound of these two channels would be a very, very interesting zone. Meanwhile, if you zoom into lower times a little bit, you can see that we also have a very, very similar zone. So you can clearly see that on weekly time frame, if we retest the lower bound of this big channel, we'll be lining up with the previous major high right there. And on daily time frame, it's forming a very, very similar setup. If you push a little bit lower, we'll be retesting this zone right there. Also, we got one there. That's it. So if you break this one, we'll be making a deeper correction movement, which is also lining up with these zones. So long story short, we are overall bullish. If we start the correction, this entire zone would be a good area to be looking for a trend following long. But how do you know that the correction is about to start? We simply zoom into a lower time frame to H4 time frame, for example. We have this consolidation now, which is forming a very nice double top pattern formed. If you break the neckline downward, we're expecting the correction to start towards this lower trend line, lining up with this high. And if it's broken downward, we'll be expecting a movement towards the lower trend line, lining up with this previous major high. So that's currently it for US500. It's a fast video because we don't really have much support and resistance, but the correction movement would most probably look like this. higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, a double top shape, for example, broken down, and the correction starts. Very, very similar, a double top shape. If it's broken down, of course, we'll be expecting correction to start towards this and this low. Meanwhile, we can still push higher and higher, as mentioned previously, towards the 5.9K and 6K, which are the upper bounds of the channel. Let's wait for it. Break this, correction starts. Meanwhile, we are bullish, expecting further bullish movement upward. Best of luck, and I'll see you hopefully on the next episode.